Six music right now. It's Steve Lamacq.
Just how you look through some of your stories of where you ended up living when you left home. Were you living the dream, or were you living in a one-room flat with a leaky roof over a laundrette? Craig in Glasgow. The first place I lived after leaving home in 1996 was on Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow, above the venue Nice and Sleazy. I lived with some of the rest of the band I was in, called The Commercials, and a couple of members of the band Whiteout. We all used Sleazy's as our living room, basically, so most of the memories of that time tend to be a bit hazy, a bit hazy, a bit hazy, a bit hazy.
Thursday the 15th of February 1996, and Glasgow sees the premiere of the film Trainspotting. I remember this because my brother Paul had got us tickets for the screening after the premiere opened to the general public. Anyway, I had other plans for the early part of the evening. Having finally bought a drum kit a few months earlier, keen to join in all this current Britpop action, and lucky for me, while at a recent gig in Tuts, Peter Hill had introduced me to a guy whose band were looking for a drummer. Now, at the time, 8 out of 10 bands sounded just like Oasis, so when I asked Peter what his band were like, I was a bit surprised at his reaction. He paused, stared off into the distance, and eventually said, I don't know, sort of avant-garde. I was introduced to a guy called Kembo. He looked hard as fuck. This was perhaps exaggerated by the fact it was a Lucy Baines band gig and the room was full of other drunken, scary looking Greenokians. So while the newest British movie stars were out at the Odeon, I'd arranged to pop in to meet the other two guys in the band and get a demo tape from them. I was still living at home, failing at college, and nobody else seemed interested in having me as a drummer. I was hoping I'd like them. I was hoping they'd like me. Quite frankly, I was not in a position to be, well, choosy.
Choose life. Choose a job. Choose a career. Choose a family. Choose a fucking big television. Choose washing machines, cars, compact disc players and electrical tin openers.
Choose to stop at 435 Sauchiehall Street. Choose to climb those rat-infested steps up to the flat. Choose to pick up that demo tape. Choose to give it a listen as soon as you get home from the cinema that night. Choose getting your arse in gear. Choose joining a band, getting up on stage and having some of this. I'm going to stop talking now as I want you to hear what I heard that night uninterrupted. I will, however, be putting some of the thoughts I had along the bottom.
see you, you see me, I need you, you need me, and you and me, we will put the two in key.
How would I describe the Commercials to somebody who'd never heard of them? How does one describe the indescribable?
If I was to describe the band to somebody that had never heard them before, probably a bunch of undesirables playing indescribable music.
No one else sounded like the Commercials, they didn't sound like anyone else. No one else could kind of play the way they did, I think.
It was quirky, it was evolving, it was complex, it was avant-garde, it was interesting, it was, a bit Zappa-ish, a bit, Bonzo Doodah band, it was a bit, all the things I really like.
Eccentric, prog, psychedelic pop, with a bit of country thrown in.
I didn't really think of them as a rock band. I didn't really think of them as an indie band. I mean, it was a guitar band, but as I call the Commercials a guitar band, that doesn't sound right either.
How would I describe Commercials? After fucking head. Unique.
I hadn't seen anyone like them playing elsewhere. Like when he's spinning a dervish firing massive Santana riffs off Craig and Campbell holding it together, and of course then you had Scully topping it all off like Alex Harvey at the opera.
I loved you guys because you were so down to earth, you were conscientious, your music was good as well, and I remember going to a good few gigs.
There's a huge amount of musicianship and energy, I think, from the Commercials.
4 different guys doing their own thing, but it kind of made sense.
I think the thing with the Commercials was that you saw them once and you were in.
Magnetic frontman with an uncanny vocal range. A truly original and inimitable guitar axe hero. A virtuoso bass player and strangely normal drummer.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
I went and did a diploma in sound engineering at SEE in Coatbridge. I was to choose a band and do a 24-track recording and record and mix it. And of course, as my first ever studio recording, I chose Trouser Snake. Why did I choose Trouser Snake, as they were called at the time? The thing that drew me right away was I couldn't believe the musicianship I was hearing. And more importantly for me certainly was the fact that I had never heard this kind of thing before. I remember McGuinn, I think, came with a Fisher-Price Activity Centre that I was to record. This is easy sampling, let's just say. I think there was a bucket of sand talked about and they wanted the sound of sand. But what I didn't realise is they had an innate ability to understand what would work, and Campbell and McGuinn particularly could just layer in things and knew that it was going to work with something else they had just thought of and so on. I mean, they recorded quite a few songs, and I went to a lot of their gigs.
The first time I ever remember seeing To Snake, as they were coined by the Tilly of course, was in the Davy Jones locker in Gourock at some point in the early 90s, and I was just completely blown away that such exotic kind of people lived in Inverclyde. Couldn't quite believe it.
Sauchiehall Hall Street, 435, upstairs some sleazies, across the road from the garage.
A million happy memories of living in 435, even though it was only a short while I was there, really. There was always something happening, and Sleazy's was like the front room. And really at that point, by the time I moved in to 435, the commercials are really happening, and Whiteout were in a bit of a hiatus. I would have said they were the ones that were leading the charge, which was amazing.
The concept of two bands having two flats, one above each other, above Nice and Sleazy's, seems about as Glasgow scene as you could get.
I love the company, I love the music, I love the pakora.
I remember commercials used to live on Sauchiehall Street. Used to basically live in Nice and Sleazy's, and it was just a really amazing time for bands.
The flat above Sleazy's or thereabouts, and basically, that was boho. I think would be the word, if you can get boho, and above Sleazy's. And it's just memories. I was speaking to somebody, I think the girl, a Japanese girl, was there who actually filmed the Oasis video, or the first gig at Tuts.
Chip rolls from across the chippy across the road from the flat, and drinking semi-warm cans of Miller from the off-licence round the corner.
As well as being a band that played regularly, they stayed upstairs from Sleazy's, and it was basically, they used the bar like the living room for a while. They were brilliant folk to hang around with. They were always up for an after hours party at the flat upstairs. I don't think the flatmate Dave the Poet was too happy about that, but still they were good times. I remember them playing to a few pals, great gigs. They were initially not too busy, but word of mouth soon got around, and they ended up selling the place out most nights that they played. They actually broke the bar take record at the time at one of their shows. I think they were more chuffed about that than anything else.
I remember Scully and McWhinney, quite often they were coming in early, come down into the cafe with a wee cup of tea and a natter. And they kind of things kind of attract you to people, you know, you feel easy with them.
Carlton Studios, pretty mental. Always an adventure. The first thing I remember is Craig coming in with his drums, setting up his drums, and I thought, well, the band will be here soon because, you know, that's what the day bands come, and then we'll set up the guides, and then we'll get a click, and then we'll start recording. That never happened. What happened was Craig said, "Oh no, I'll just play it," and I was like, "Do you want a click?" He says, "No, I know the tempo," and the tempo changes. And I was like, oh, here we go. And to this day, nobody's ever done that. They just come in and played the drums himself. No bass, nothing, just drums. And he played the drums to the track. And then that was the track we used. Again, that's no happened in what 25 years of doing this. Very rare. That's exactly what happened when Kembo came in. I'll just play the bass. Do you know any? No, I'll just play the drums. Listening back to Backstabbing Prima Donna, I still don't think I've had a bass sound that good in years, in body years. And then that's how the recording would always proceed. Just we know it, we know what we're doing. And then it got zanier and zanier, and then it was as left field as it always was. I remember no hearing anything like it, and still to this day no heard anything like it. I remember Kembo mentioning that intelligence was measured by your index finger, which we all put our fingers on a Marshall lamp, and found out that Kembo had put the wrong finger in, which Skull said, "For fuck's sake, Kembo," and that seemed to be the pattern throughout.
Was it during when I saw her face, there was sequenced star jumps across the stage? It was such a simple thing, but it was so funny and well effective too. I mean, I think that song was an opener sometimes. And so what a perfect way to introduce the audience to the band.
When
Thank you very much.
Getting the commercials on the radio as their kind of unofficial radio representative, which I was honoured to be for a brief period of time, was not that difficult really, because everyone was aware of the band, because everyone that knew anyone in the Glasgow scene at the time was like, oh yeah, of course we know about the commercials, and everyone knew about the artwork and how mad the gigs were, because the gigs were pretty mad. So yeah, I used to have a little box of 7 inches at the time. Don't even know if we had CDs, and yeah, it was great. It was kind of good times to get something really fresh and a bit mad on the radio. Actually, it was fun.
We don't know where we're going to take you with us.
Live in the studio at BBC Music Live, we have
the commercials. Hello.
Hello, how are you doing? All right.
The commercials, and I'm joined by Craig Martin. So let's talk about your album. You know, you're saying that you made it on a shoestring budget, but really it sounds like a pretty great record.
Well, we sort of conned people into giving us studio time, and we had a little help from the marvellous students and a man with a great vision called Chris Bradley at James Watt College.
You've got the vibe with Jim Galladley on North Sound 1.
There we go, that's the commercials on North Sound 1, tune called Runaway, which is the B-side of the current single. Hi guys, how you doing?
Not bad.
Great. Good. Just say, hi, not bad. I told you to speak into a microphone if you're going to speak at all. When we talk of Greenock, I suppose the band that people mostly know is Whiteout. Are they sort of mates of yours?
Love them or loathe them, we live with them. Just now,
they're nice guys.
There's 2 of them in our flat and the other 2 are up the stairs.
Oh, you do actually live with them?
It's like monkeys, you know. We've got a big pole in between.
You know, I wish they'd rearrange the studio, because I've got a big computer screen in front of me and you're all behind that.
Okay, computer.
So this single that you've got, When I Saw Her Face, is this the first thing you've released?
It certainly is. It's on Flotsam and Jetsam Records.
If anybody wants to buy it tonight, I'll be selling it. In the word could work.
It's Kane's job. Mine looks like Ronnie Biggs' son. He'll flog you one.
He actually met Ronnie Biggs when he was over in Rio recently. No joke.
We were quite lucky because he just got off with his extradition, so he was
scared of you, that you'd hit him over the head or something.
That look, no. In fact, I was scared of him. The guy's about 7 feet tall with hands
hands like shovels.
Now remember, this is BBC Radio Scotland you're listening to here, so just keep it clean, ladies. All right. Okay.
Don't know what you mean.
One thing we've noticed about the commercials, and this is amongst ourselves and sort of people within kind of like the industry, is you're very good at generating interest around your band, at getting your posters out and getting your tapes out and stuff like that. Do you want to give any sort of tips to any bands that are out there at the moment? They're just starting on the road to rock and roll fame.
Don't
say
bother.
no.
Don't bother.
Just
There's
say
enough
no.
competition for us, I think. Get yourself a good book of Life magazine photographs and just nick away photos and put posters up.
So basically, we're to keep our eyes out for sketchy robbed images on posters with the commercials written underneath.
That's it. Downhill from here.
Oh
the artwork and posters, particularly loved the fact that they used the Impact font, one of my favourites. It was straightforward, no frills, as the name says, it had an immediate impact which suited the commercial style exactly.
The posters were so striking, they were all similar kind of format, black and white with just the name of the band, where and when.
Black and white posters were always arresting, and you knew exactly who they were from as soon as you saw them.
I seem to remember there being a lot of gigs. It did seem as if the Commercials were a busy band.
Thinking about the gigs, there was that so many. Probably the ones that stick in my mind most would be the Halloween specials.
Halloween gig.
Commercials live, mayhem, everybody dressing up. I think I remember Kembo was devilled up, horns and that.
Kembo dressed as the devil, that kind of sticks out. That's quite a scary memory. Kembo as the devil.
Craig was always trying to get the gigs in, as everyone was, I'm sure, but he suggested they might be a good support for the Supernaturals around Scotland and down in Liverpool. I remember down to play in Liverpool.
When the Supernaturals started to get quite big, especially in Scotland, got quite a broad audience, and whenever the Commercials would support them, it was very interesting to watch the confusion and fear and kind of disorientation of lots of Supernaturals fans watching this kind of incredible frontman in Scully and this kind of totally kind of anarchic kind of show.
Did you ever understand what the singer was saying? I never did that.
I remember hearing a funny story about the Commercials going on tour with the Supernaturals, and who at the time were quite big and probably had quite a teenage audience, and perhaps were not quite accustomed to a band like the Commercials. I think ramping that up was Scully going into that accent of the type of person you pass who's on their way down to the dole office for one reason or another.
Please be chatty still. Half 2 this morning, you're telling us me. Yeah, I do. He's a rainmonger.
I need to teach you what I thought you knew.
I began to understand him when he was speaking in Swedish.
Boy, is this audience up for some rock? We are a new Swedish band, we're called the Commercials. We're going to play some good old-fashioned Swedish funk and swing and rock.
My head swims in your deep throat. Your tongue has got me.
The Ian Dury gig, incredible. Just rocked that stage. I was lucky to be at the desk, and also lucky enough to get downstairs to meet the man himself.
Ian Dury at the garage, skull thrown up on stage. I think that happened. I didn't actually see him thrown up at the time, but I remember somebody saying that it did.
The London trip, I was at the borderline. I think I was a wee bit nervous about just how wild it was going to be, and of course it wasn't really wild at all. I think we left early. It must have been summer. I remember it being light when we left from maybe outside the garage, Sauchiehall Street. It was this kind of rickety bus, not a full-size coach. It was one of those smaller things that looked like they were for like care in the community. I guess we got down at mid-afternoon. I can remember Rick Witzer from Shed 7 was there. That's like the only famous person in the crowd. I asked John Saki about this stuff. John's only memory of the entire trip to London was really the fact that on the way back up, we weren't sitting together, we were apart for some reason. John was sitting next to someone who was so drunk that they were completely asleep until they woke up and were sick all over John, and then went straight back to sleep again. John had to sit kind of locked in at the window seat the entire trip up, covered in this guy's sick.
Top of the pops. We're ready to go.
Denim night shall conquer. Denim night is on. Denim night, you rule my life. You are rock and roll.
Did you enjoy Fireworks? Got my cake tonight. 5-3 banger. Nah, that's what I call music. No one from Ring has made it yet, and we're no exception.
Denim night, you strike at midnight. Warlocks riding side by side. Woman swung and demons falter. On a dragon with you ride.
Box of what? Marmalade is in Osmo.
Hugh Cornwell, and I think it was a garage. That was a rockin' wee gig.
The guy at Stranglers, what's this? Hugh Cornwell. I remember him being a bit of a dick. But he did a song called One Day at a Time, and me and Eric, the keyboard player, his brother, sat in each instrumental break in the chorus after he sang like One Day at a Time, he would sing Sweet Jesus out loud. I don't know if you can hear it or not, which we thought was really funny because it sounded like the Lena Martell hit of the late 70s.
One day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking from you. Just give me the strength to do every day what I have to do.
Anybody remember Marillion? You love this.
Together dim their matches, just like witches at dark matches. No matter blood destruction, total
destruction. In the fields, the body's burning. As the war machine keeps turning. Yes, and hatred to mankind. Forging in their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah. What's in store? Love in the book and I need the score. Showing up, showing out, hit and run. Boy, Miss Blow, where the heat goes on. Still stuck tight, can't set free. Love in the book, got a hook on me. Oh, catch that buzz. Love in the book, I'm thinking of. Oh, can't you see? Love in the world, got a hook on me.
This one's for Judas. Is there any big Judas?
alongside the lake of fire. Ice cream and support on sale. Road trip for years, but then it burns in the second you look all is news. I never would, but I'm not out of order if I stayed of mind. You're a plot on the border. If I'm a piece of shit, then don't step upon me. You are worth a million. You leave a zero.
How long is Big Judas? Well known.
I remember Jake just walking into the studio while we were recording and saying, "What the fuck's all this? What the fuck's all this Jippo shite?" We were aghast, but not surprised.
That was the last recording that made it onto a CD in my time in the band. The commercials kept going for a while, quite rightly, with previous incumbent Shug back on the drums, along with Kembo's brother John joining in on guitar too. There was a couple of cracker tunes recorded, they're out there somewhere, and even played to a packed town hall in Greenock supporting Ian Brown. But that's about all I can tell you about those days because, well, I wasn't there. I left after coming to the conclusion that having not quite managed to be internationally famous millionaire rock stars in the space of 3 or 4 years meant that the world might not be ready for the commercials. I might have been wrong. I did manage to play in one last recording though, made down at James Watt College. It's been amazing to hear from all the people who have sent in their video clips. I can't thank you all enough. That was the commercials. This is Burning Up.
Why did we film the commercials so much? It's not any more complicated than what a fantastic band to film. I got such fondness from those times. It was a great introduction to a good bunch of people, great new music, and the sort of experiences which, modest in themselves, stick with you for a very long time.
Majority of the time it was just them doing their own thing, which was great, refreshing. I was lucky enough to play the commercials for a wee while, doing a bit of keyboards, and an honour to serve.
All in all, I'm glad to be a part of this trip down memory lane, and yeah, just love to let the boys know of what they meant to me over the years and the happy times we shared. Brilliant, now lads. Love it.
Always a pleasure to be in their company. I think I saw Maurice Scully and McQuinn socially. They were brilliant songwriters, and were honest and funny, never took themselves too seriously, which is the perfect combination for a band in my opinion. I think the commercials were totally unique.
The commercials, genuinely, really difficult to kind of put your finger on because they were kind of out of time and out of sync, but at the same time were like a centrifugal part of that Glasgow scene.
With Scully's vocals and McWinn's guitar playing, Kemble's battering that bass really well, and Craig's drums, it's unique, you just put that together. Still, half its heat.
I think there was a much wider audience out there for the commercials. If the right person came along that really got the commercials, then they would be signed up and they would do well.
Oh jeez, I still love you. I don't know what more I could say about yous other than that I love yous.
It breaks my heart in one sense that I think they're the best band that never made it that I've heard. I really miss the inventiveness and the spirit of the Snake and commercials because it was something very particularly special, not just to me but to lots of people. And I've played some of the commercials tracks to people in the college and other musicians and stuff, and they're fascinated by it. They go, "Oh, give me a copy of that, that's amazing." So it's not just me.
You got me burning up. You got me